this area is either ranked first or second for worst in traffic in the world. And I'm not kidding, it's LA or us. And it took me a while to get here. I used to live in Maryland, which was about 35 minutes from here. Now I live like 800 minutes from here. It's not so far. But I got here, it's all good. Not my worst trip ever. The top 3. All right, little housekeeping. So the PDF of today's presentation you will get, and the other 3 digital files. Megan, have you given it to me now? Not yet. So you'll get all 4 digital files soon. The second one is the workbook. You have a really slick, well-printed workbook that you're going to write in. You'll also get it in digital copy as well. The third item is the storytelling framework and guide. That's about 80 pages that has the framework in it, as well as examples and lots of different types of tips on storytelling, words to use, presentation words to use, and to avoid. And then the last item is one of my fun ones. It's the big book of positive words. How to take negatives and make them positive. It also has some overlap with storytelling. That's about 75 to 80 pages as well. So you'll have all those digitally. And then the workbook we're going to work on today as well. You'll have some nice, as Megan said, actionable things to do. How's that sound? Good? Woo! What state are you from?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. All right, let's hear for Oklahoma. Thank you for the love there. That's very nice. So, of course, as a storyteller, let me share with you a little story. So, you've all been to conferences, right? You've been to big ones. Anybody ever been to the American Society of Association Executives, ASAE? Anybody ever been to that one? So it's like an organization that helps other associations grow. And I think I've spoken 9 times for them in different capacities. One of the things that I love to do is go down on the floor and meet people. The interesting stories, interesting pictures. You never know who you're going to meet. I look for messaging elements, things like all their marketing materials, right? And I only have a few minutes to look after the program. Some really nifty things that you guys brought. It's all walking around. And just like you expressed business casual, and I see these 3 gents dressed like me, right? Suits with no ties. And I went, anybody here like to do that? Look for the opportunity in the moment, right? Something that you can actually talk about that doesn't sound like, oh, how's the weather, or how's your trip? I said, maybe you guys were all dressed up in pants and a suit. Turned completely red, all 3 guys. All 3 guys turned completely red. Communications, right? That's what I do. And I said to myself, what did I possibly do wrong? All I said was, you guys are pants and suits. And then you got the universal, right? You know, that one, don't worry about it. I said, oh no, please, I'm sorry. What did I say? Don't worry about it. But he never said anything. I said, no, please, I'm sorry. And he started to talk, and I heard an accent. Anybody know where I'm going with this? So they explained to me that the word pants in British English is underwear. So I complimented them on their underwear. I don't think it deserved 3 guys blushing so much. We laughed and we talked for a few more minutes. Now, go within 2 more days, and the closing event happens, and I meet this gentleman named Seth. Seth is one of the strategic directors for this organization called the Keynote in the UK. And they have an upcoming conference, and we shook hands and we agreed that I'm going to do a keynote for them on storytelling. These are charities and foundations. In the UK, they call them voluntary organizations. So here's me a few years ago, a little younger, taller. I used to be taller. But that's the program, even with all their spelling errors, right? How they love to switch the Z's and the S's. And what story do you think I told to open up my keynote? I told the pants story. This is the exact slide I used, and I opened it and I said, ladies and gentlemen, could you please tell me what this is? Everybody starts yelling. And nobody's malicious. They're yelling, pants, pants, pants. I kept a straight face, and I showed this picture. They start yelling, trousers, 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 even louder. And then I said, you're all wrong. They all looked at me and I said, that's underwear and those are pants. Then they started yelling and screaming and started throwing things at me. And I waited until everybody, that lady believes me. He didn't throw anything at me, don't worry. See me after, I have some things to give you. They only cost a little bit. And so I waited till it was dead quiet, and I said, where are the pants in your communication materials? Where do you have a disconnect between what you think you're communicating and what your audience is seeing or hearing? Then I got dead silent. Hear a mouse peep, right? All those tickling metaphors. So I challenge you with the same message. Are you getting the responses that you want from your various communication materials? If not, right, steal everything that's in that room or whatever you're allowed to take, ask for your own copies, really use this conference. And I know that because I've talked to Megan and the team about that, right? You're all very collegiate, no pun intended, and very collaborative. Right, so really do that, and I want to challenge you today. We're going to do some collaborative things as well. So my big message is what I call delivering the expected experience. So let's imagine I'm holding up a magazine, and I get it as an alum. Is it what I expect? Are the articles in there? Do I see me in the pictures? Do I see words that are going to resonate with me? Right, that's what you guys want to think about. So what we're going to do now is a fun exercise, and what you're simply going to do is tell a story about your first day at the office. Okay, so it's your current position, or even if you've been there forever and you're a long-term veteran there, whatever your first day was, you choose. And there's the instructions, so groups of 3 maximum. So my friends from Texas, 3, just 3, okay? I lived in Texas for a while. It's one of the Seinfeld things. Is if you live there or do that, you can make fun of people. So I have a lot of things. I was in the Army. Any vets in here? Not one vet. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Wait, there's a vet? Okay. Who are you pointing to? Oh, you weren't sure, sir? Oh, when we raise hands, we raise them tall. What service were you? Oh, that's why you're a little ashamed. It's okay. I do programs for vets and I play with them. He knows. We're all having fun. We're all on the same team. So you need to make sure that whoever the timer is, you're strict. No matter how interesting the story is, you have to say to your friend, time. Okay? If you have a group of 4, the 4th person will not go. Seriously. At the end of 3 people, whistle goes, that's it. We're on to the next thing. So groups of 3 maximum, 2 minutes maximum. Simply tell the story about your first day in your work office. Okay? Have fun. Go. Okay, switch. Next speaker, next storyteller. Go. Person two. Person two. Person three.
I bet you there's something that she wanted to ask that she didn't ask. There was
Table in the back. All in the corner. Good. So these are the three takeaways from today. I want you to remember your story, keep that in your head. We're going to do version 2 in a little bit. So keep that in your head. Okay, so here's our big three takeaways for today. Just a little bit of personal and a little bit of organizational. Either way, both parts of you will gain some experience. I want to kind of get you in framework for thinking differently. I really believe that messaging at its heart is getting people to stop, think about what you're sharing, and decide whether or not they're going to act. That's really what it's all about, right? Think about how much you get on your desk, how many different pieces of email, regular mail, what you get at home, when you're walking, how many different messages are bombarding your brain, including your own mind and what you're thinking about. So this is one of my favorite videos. It's filmed in Mexico City. You may have seen it before. If you have, keep it a secret until the end. It's a little slow to start. Be patient. You'll hear the tempo of the music speed up, and you'll also see the movie sort of, the folks are moving a little bit more interesting and a little bit faster. There are subtitles on the bottom, so if you don't speak Spanish, look for the subtitles, and the big payoff is in the end. He's struggling to put it all away in his pocket. Here comes magic writer, marketing guy. The man says in Spanish, "What'd you do to my sign?" Oh, there's the text. Pan to the sign. Pretty cool, huh? It's one of the reasons I absolutely love YouTube. I found this, I don't know how many years ago, many years ago, and I wrote to Alonso and he gave me a copy of this video. And it's called, I didn't want to tell you anything up front because I wanted you to see it. It's called Historia de lo Nutrero, Story of the Sun. And again, that's exactly what you are. You're getting people to stop and pay attention. And how many emails do you write? Think about how many emails you send out, how many letters. I get 2 magazines from Syracuse, one from the School of Business and one from Syracuse. They're in my laptop, I forgot to grab them. And I brought one of my Turk magazines. That's the Maryland magazine as well. You have to put a lot of energy into your materials, right? So are people reading them? And that's what you want to do. You really want to stop them. And you want to use words that are going to stop people so they're paying attention.
Let's see. Are you moving it or am I? Okay, so let's go backward. Okay, good.
All right. So to get people to buy, right, you got to get to the heart first, then the head, then the wallet. And for you, what is it, a click? Is it a membership? Is it an upgrade? Is it a lifetime membership? That's really big here. I don't know if you guys got a tour, you get bricks, you have your name engraved, different levels, whatever it is that's important to you, that's what you're getting people to do. So you may have seen the number, pretend, those of you that didn't, pretend you didn't. What number do you think is hidden behind the orange box? Yell that out, what you think. How many more times makes things more effective when you use stories? If you saw it, think in your head. Who didn't see it? Did everybody see it? Okay, so what's the number? Yell it out. Oh, you saw it if you said 22. There's no way you knew exactly what it was. If that's the case, we're going to Vegas. Did you really say 22 on your own strike? No, you saw it, right? Yeah. You're being coy. That's okay. That's cute. So it's 22. Right? That's a big number, folks. So I don't know what you guys do in your materials. I don't know how much you rely on data. I do think you should rely on some data, but you got to get to the heart to get to the data. So it's about the message first. And many, many years ago, back in the late 1800s, these two doctors, these researchers, independently, so they're not related in any way, it just happens to be in the 1870s. Nobody argues about their research. Nobody challenges to this day. And over the years, more likely the more 50-ish years and the more recent, realized that storytelling can activate 9 different parts of your brain. So you'll see the 5 senses, and you'll see movement, you'll see emotion. Right? So many times people, like I wasn't watching anyone in particular, but do any of you have a movement related to your story? Maybe you talked about opening a laptop. Did you actually open the laptop when you were telling your story? Just a little bit. Maybe you're a sports player and you played lacrosse. Just flick the stick, just a little bit. Baking cake in the oven. Open the oven. Smell. Show us. That's part of what makes stories memorable and creating an emotional connection. So it's really, really important for you to think about the words that you are using. One of the things that I love to do, as I mentioned ago, when I travel around the world, I've done this business in 12 different countries. And I take what I call messaging elements or picture elements. This is in the country of Georgia, which is southwest of Russia, former Soviet Republic. And I've probably taken 12 different countries on this. I just came back from a river cruise, and I took 5 different countries worth of the equivalent pictures. That makes me happy to look at that. But what do you see here? Headlines. Headlines are what causes you to buy them. I know when you go to the grocery store, you want to buy those magazines. You do. You look at them and you go, is Elvis alive? Really? You do. You pick them. And some people buy them, right? It's all about the headline. Statistics show for years, 60%, 80% of what they call the pull comes from the headline. So no matter where you are in the world, it's all the same. So here's a quick little illustration of the power of changing your words. So when I do large keynotes and I'm not familiar with the audience, like I pestered Megan and Taylor with lots of questions about your organization, who's going to be here, the list of the schools. I asked them all sorts of questions. But I didn't know anything about hospital health care. So I interviewed about 12 people, and I always tell them in advance, I'm going to interview you for 15 minutes. That's all I need. And it's perfect, because I get one tidbit, one story. So this is Michelle, not really Michelle, the representation, but her name is Michelle. She's 5 feet tall. It's important to know that she's petite. And she tells me that she's a risk consultant. That's how she describes herself. So I'm asking her a bunch of questions. And what I come to realize is, Michelle is a finger pointer. Most hospital healthcare risk professionals like her, they have the unfortunate job, when a patient has a bad experience, she gets a folder on her desk this big and has to figure out, is it a people issue, process, or technology? It's almost always people, because it's medicine, it's not an exact science. So this little petite woman will walk down the hallway, and 6-foot-plus male doctors who fear nothing run and scurry like little tiny bugs and turn the light on when Michelle walks, because they don't want to be at the other end of her finger. I'm watching the clock, because I told people I'll hang up on them politely, 15 minutes, and 14 minutes and 38 seconds, this is what Michelle said. I guarantee you, in your materials, you're saying this stuff when you should be saying these types of messages. To me, this is where you spend the majority of your time, is on these awesome messages that grab people, that say, read me. You're losing out. It's like FOMO if you don't read me. That's what you're trying, right? Isn't that really cool? I'm a risk consultant, right? Think of your elevator speech today. How do you describe yourself? Versus, I make a difference in patients' lives every day. So that's what I call the better tomorrow message. Your job as communicators, as storytellers, is to help people realize, feel like you're going to make their days better. Being a member of the Alumni Association has what benefits? Long-term benefits. One of my best friends today, John, I met through the Alumni Association 20-some-odd years ago. I called up and I said, I want to become a member. What happened was I moved away to California, came back, and I wanted to get more involved in being a church. John and I are still friends. He used to run the local county alumni chapter. I got to meet a lot of people. Still have my original pin. You probably can't tell, just see it's red. But I have my original pin from something like 20 years ago. One of my favorite that I wear on my jacket. Now, Mr. Marine, when I go to government events or military, I wear my Army pin. I always make fun of the Marines, or they make fun of me too. Right? So the Better Tomorrow message, it's a pair of bookend. It's the feeling you want people to have. Remember? Heart first, head second, wallet third. And then the call to action is the head. My suggestion is you make them the same, and then it makes it much, much easier. And I'm going to illustrate that with an example, right? So what alumni association do you have? Your alumni association, what do you want to be known for? How are you communicating your differentiators? The reasons why people should join. Make sense? So 3 pillars that I want to share with you. And this gets people thinking differently. That's my goal here for you today. Solve their problems or address their needs. Right? A recent alum might be find me a job. An older alum might be find me networking partners, strategic relationships, go on experiential trips, whatever it might be. Maybe it's recruiting. I really I'm blessed with the fact that my class, I started in August, and in February-ish, I get 2 interns for free as part of their studies. So I already know them because they were my students the semester before. If I'm going to hire, I always think Maryland first. Right? So how are you getting inside people's heads to get them thinking? Pillar number 2, your stories, your communications must inspire them to action. Are your calls to action obvious, or are they buried? Are they mixed? Do you have 3 on a particular short email? The third one is align your stories and messages to their goals. Do you all have a list of goals related to what your audiences are going to be? Right? Recent grads, middle grads, maybe the international grads. There's sports-related grads. There's maybe ROTC. I get separate emails from ROTC at Syracuse, right? Because you have little niches. Think about that. Dr. Medina has this great little book. I like to look at number 4, more of the reason that people think it's boring or don't pay attention is because you haven't made what you say resonate with someone. That's why it's boring. It's not because it is boring itself, it's because of what you say and how you say it. So frame things around their problems and you'll start to change how you do things. So there's me, one of the TED Talk nights. Typically we have about 200 students those nights. So the freshmen is part of a program, like an honors program that I teach in. And the freshmen come, and then my 75-ish to 80 students come. And so together they watch all the TED Talks. So this is one of the ways I like to look at storytelling, is that storytelling in and of itself is not new. It's been around forever. Cave paintings, right? Grunts, those were all stories. That's where you're supposed to laugh. Thank you. I have no problem asking for laughs. No, I did that improv. But stories remind us of things. They make us feel a certain way. What books do you like to read? What movies, TV shows do you like to watch? All of those, they're not different. They're really the same thing over and over. Different characters, different dialogue, but they make you feel a certain way. How are you making your audiences feel? So here's some examples of better tomorrow messages for some of the clients. You can see a lot of diversity. When you're developing your various materials, to me, you want to have one overarching theme. So I know Marilyn has an overarching feedback. Are we still fearlessly forward? Okay, so that's 5 years, right? Yeah, so fearlessly forward. It's alliterative, it's powerful, it's metaphorical, it has a future bent to it, right? And that's the 5-year umbrella message. Then they have sub-messages, maybe they're themes, maybe they're holidays, something specific to your region. Right? So whatever it might be, what are the messages that support? And then these are designed for elevator pitches and businesses, so you might want to chop the beginning off and maybe you start with a verb or an adverb, right? Molding water to excitement, creating workplace happiness. We build futures. You see, that one's really powerful, right? How are you helping maybe junior people? So here's some other examples. There's other examples in the story framework, and all of them have better messages. Here's a video. This is Jeff Hoffman's TED Talk. It's just the beginning. It's about 3 minutes. I want to illustrate to you how he tells a story with a clear better tomorrow message and a clear call to action. As you watch it, and we're going to need to test it. It may not work. You may have to help and see if we can do the audio and figure out why it didn't work. So don't go too far. So I want you to listen for the better tomorrow message and the call to action. He says them very specifically. So go ahead if you want. Let's see.
I want to tell you a story. I was in charge of a 5-year-old for the day. And so after a staring contest, first of all, that I somehow lost, I don't know how she got me to back down. She won the staring contest, so what are we going to do today? I said, I got to go to my office. I said, get in the car. So she starts walking across the room, and she's looking down as she's walking, and she says to me, how do they make carpet? And I said, I don't know, there's machines that sew it and stitch it together, whatever, just go to the garage, right? So we're walking along, we get in the garage, and she goes over to the car, she taps on the window, and she says, how do they make glass? And I said, I don't know, there's like fire and sand. And she's like, fire and sand? She'd given me this look like, remind me not to waste my money on a Yale education. And I'm like, seriously, that's how they make glass. Get in the car, okay? Then she taps on that thing you see, the bar that goes between the two windows. And she says, what is this thing called? And I said, it doesn't have a name. And she said, what is the thing between the two windows? The script called. I said, it doesn't have a name, okay? And she said, if it doesn't have a name, how do they order more on the assembly line? Okay, so it's 5-year-old free, old guy nothing at this point. I said, look, just get in the car. So we get in the car and we drive to the office. When we get to the office, I'm walking across my familiar territory through my familiar employees and processes. And there she goes again. I look and I watch in her eyes, she's looking at everything, taking in everything around her and processing it. And then she starts. She says, what is that thing? And she says, why do you have 2 of those things? Why is that girl on the phone all day? What does that guy do? And I said, please, take some markers and go draw something on the whiteboard. Which she finally did. A bag of Cheetos won that argument. I went and sat in my office. And I sat there for a minute and something significantly bothered me. And I stood up and I said, wait a minute, why do we have 2 of those? What is that thing and why is that girl on the phone all day? And I realized something really important. I lost my childlike wonder. I lost the ability to wonder about everything around me because I was busy. We get in our cocoon, right, that we're comfortable. We see the same things every day, so we stop seeing them. And in fact, it gave me a revelation. I went and got my entire management team, and I said, tomorrow I want everybody to come in here and think like a child. I want you to think like a 5-year-old. I want you to bring back childlike wonder, and I want you to question everything we do and why we do it. And the results were
So the link will be in the PDF. Pretty cool story, right? All right, so what do you think the better tomorrow message and call to action are? They're 2 separate phrases. Bueller.
Bring back child.
Mr. Texas, is that you?
No, South Carolina.
Oh, you're sitting with my friends from Texas. So my friend from South Carolina, bring that childlike wonder is which, please?
Well, it's called action. It's also very important.
Could be, but he did have a specific. You still win the prize. Someone else. There's another phrase. Yes, please.
Think like a 5-year-old?
Think like a 5-year-old. And where are you from?
Penn State.
Penn State. One of my good friends graduated from
And
there.
I went to Syracuse.
Oh, great. I call myself an orange turd. What do you call yourself?
I'm an orange turd.
So he calls it bring that childlike wonder and think like a 5-year-old. If you're going to ask me, look at the two. Really look at them. The first one really doesn't tell you what to do. It really doesn't tell you what to feel or how to feel. The second one tells you both. You're going to put the 5-year-old hat on and go, what am I going to do with a 5-year-old? I like the first one. The second one is so much more powerful. So this is a circumstance where I would say you make them both the same. So you want to be careful with your language and you don't have too many messages that are conflicting. And even though you may say they're similar, they're not. So if you're going to have a message, make sure it's really clear, think like a 5-year-old, whatever you're going to use. So the Great Stories Framework, you don't have to open up your booklet, but if you want to, it's the very first page on the inside. You're going to have an option to do this in a few minutes. And it's also electronic in both this and the framework and guide. And when you mouse over each of the fields, it will give you the little descriptions and the definitions, as well as the legend or the key on the next page in both documents. So you don't have to remember everything, right? It could get a little overwhelming if you're trying to remember every single aspect of the race. But I want to show you now how you break down the Great Stories Framework with Jeff Hoffman's presentation that he just gave. Okay? So first, you can either do title or event, it doesn't matter. I personally like to put the Better Tomorrow message in the title. That's how I remember them, with the Better Tomorrow messages. Now, you might also have a campaign, maybe it's over 6 months, so you might want to maybe call it summer or July, and whatever it is, you guys figure out what your title is going to be or capital. And then you have 3 parts to develop your Better Tomorrow message. What's that? Remember pillar number 1. What's the problem you're solving? Or the issue you're addressing. It depends on the audience. Next is your common phrase. So think like a 5-year-old is really think outside the box. But if I said to you, think outside the box, you'd all go, basically, I heard it a billion times. But if I say to you, come in on Monday, think like a 5-year-old, very different, much more memorable. And then you become, bring up, that's Jeff's. So I would make this think like a 5-year-old. It's orange. Better my message is orange. Call to action. Oh, sorry, characters next. So me would be Jeff, right? When you write this, you're going to say, okay, if you're the star of the story, maybe there's a student, there's an alum, there's a donor, whatever it might be. It could be an organization. Maybe you're partnering. Maybe you're doing a charity event. Make the charity, what you're going to do is personify the charity as a character in your story. And that becomes the character. If any of you have mascots and you use them in your materials, that could be what you're doing, and you're giving dialogue to your mascot. And then the little girl, he doesn't tell you this, it's his 5-year-old daughter. I know that because I met her and she was 19, I think. She was going to GW. So the organization, I traveled to the country of Georgia. He was one of the trainers as well. I didn't go with him, but that's how we met. And then you have your call to action. And then you have your most memorable moment. Remember, Dr. Medina said we don't pay attention to boring things. Most complaints about stories are they're boring and they're too long. Almost always, right around the middle is when someone says something interesting, like an aha moment, whether it's yourself thinking the aha moment or you're with someone who has the aha moment. That's the most memorable moment. Generally, I tell people, start there, and you'll avoid all the boring stuff. How long should a business story be in a workplace? How long? Either minutes or words?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Sorry? 7. Tell me a story in 7 seconds, except for the Hemingway story.
I got up, ate breakfast, missed the bus, had to take.
That's way more than 7 words. And where's your better tomorrow message? Where's your call to action? What do you want me to do?
I was just being facetious.
So we talk at a conversational pace of 150 to 175 words per minute. A good amount of time for a story is 3 minutes. Do the math, 450 to 500 words. So if you write, which most of you are doing in your job, or if not, you have a team that writes, right? That's a full story. Most pieces, at most, 150-ish words. So you have to really condense the experience down, unless it's like a video or you're doing a testimonial, maybe somebody's telling your story. So you want to do the whole story first, and then you extract out the key bits that you want to share. But you want to think about starting in the middle. That's the exciting part. You can always go backward, but grab people's attention right away with generally the most memorable moment. And then you do your text. You don't have to write out the narrative, just a bunch of bullets, enough that you can remember the story. And then the ending should repeat the call to action, or have the call to action in there. In this case, to me, it's think like a 5-year-old, but that's Jeff's version. And on the bottom, this is where you look at your summary and you have a check mark. Is it compelling? And you know whether you can look at your piece and go, yeah, we need to work on it. Versus, yeah, I love it. You'll know. The next one is characters. Do you have interesting characters? The 5-year-old was definitely interesting. Challenge. What was the challenge? Communicating creatively, thinking differently, figuring things out. The conversation. So there's 2 types of conversations in any type of story. There's character dialogue between 2 or more people, and inner dialogue expressed out loud. That's usually where the insight. Remember when Jeff said he was really frustrated and he really didn't understand and he figured it out? That was his inner dialogue coming out. That's usually the most memorable moment right around there. And it came just shortly after the little girl pointed at all those different things. So think about your stories right now. Are they interesting? Are they grabbing attention? That's your messages. Okay? And then curious. Are people curious? Are they going to stay with you? Are they going to watch your video? Are they going to read your document? And then what's the change? The change is Jeff thought about a 5-year-old, and then the impact. Generally, you want a story that has an impact on them of 7 or better. Otherwise, if it's a low impact, why would they pay attention? Okay? So here's your, and this is in here, the legend, and it's also in the big digital document. So you did your story earlier. I'm going to give you a moment now. All of you need to give your workplace story a better tomorrow message. Don't make it think like a 5-year-old. That's not your aspiration for today. If you can, great. You're simply going to have a very specific set of words, 7-ish max. That's all you need to remember. Now, if you're a leader in your organization, you can tell your folks, I want you to do this, right? That's your prerogative as a leader. I want you to bring back childlike wonder. Think like a 5-year-old. If you're speaking up, or maybe you're speaking to an alum, and you want to be more equal, more peers, then you would say something like, I learned from that experience this. Or you might say something like, I learned this. What do you think? Do you have a similar experience? And that invites them in. So you have to decide how you're going to end it. Okay? But really think about it. You have a better tomorrow message. Max groups of 3. Just keep the same groups you did. Ready? Timekeepers. And whoever went first goes last. Whoever went last goes first. Mix it up. And have some fun.
Like I walked down the street, so I'm trying to literally remember like which job was this invest in the experience.
I was invested.
Keep an open mind. Oh, it goes up from here.
It will be very crazy.
You're not alone.
This is not the
You're not alone.
Okay, switch person two, switch please. Okay, switch person three, switch person three.
Preferably not that wall. And then they're kind of usually we open it up and
Okay. Would anybody like to volunteer and share their workplace story? Who would like to share? Raise your hand. Yes, sir. Hold on, Mike's coming. Thank you.
This is on?
Hi. So, nice. Do you want me to tell my story or just get the. Hi, I'm Matt Windsor-Johns. I'm at the University of Texas at Dallas, Director of Alumni Annual Giving Programming. And I've been in higher ed for 18 years, but I've only been an alumni for a month and a half. So, my story to my table was I forgot what it's like to be the new person. And starting and how uncomfortable you could feel, and just like, I went from knowing everything to knowing nothing. So I'm excited for this conference because I don't know all your lingo yet. I'm excited to know it. But I think the big takeaways for me was to remember what it's like to feel like you're the new person. And I had been at the university for 10 years, but I still was learning something new.
Okay, so what's your message to us? Tell us what you want us to feel or do or say.
I think to remember what it feels like to be new and to not assume people know everything.
Okay, so you're almost there.
Okay.
It's not what I would call a scalable message, right? If I say to you, stop drinking soda, what do? I haven't told you what to do. So if I say, start drinking more water, you know what to do. So if you say, remember what it's like to be the new guy, okay, it's in my head.
Yeah.
Now what? What do you want me to do with that feeling?
I think just, well, what to do with that feeling. Like as a person that already works there.
I'm not going to define your story, that's up to you.
Yeah.
You have to share with us what you want us to do with that feeling. It's a great message.
Oh, right. I would say give yourself grace.
Okay? Stop there.
Got it.
Okay.
Give yourself grace and fear yourself.
We're not going to do public speaking here. I just want to give you a couple quick tips.
Yeah.
Way too fast. I was like New York fast. So when you're doing your speaking and you're doing whatever, give yourself grace. So what you're doing is I call them concept pauses and emphasis pauses. Concept is grace. Give yourself grace. The emphasis pause is the pause between your and grace. Give yourself grace. You have alliteration there, right? And you have grace, which is a huge word. And it means different things, different people. We know what it is. So that's what you want to think about. And shorter is generally better. Let us sink in. Then you can tell the rest. All right? Excellent. Someone else? One more if you want. Everybody look down.
I know you scare people.
I'm in public speaking since age 15, so 3 years now. Okay, thank you. We're not going to have any more volunteers. You can share your story with me after if you want. We do that. Okay, now, I worked with actually university relations, which is a larger umbrella, and alumni relations was part of it, about a year and a half or so ago. And they challenged me to challenge them with how to look at their messaging and how they tell stories, right? How to put together all the wonderful materials that are right next door. So this is our mascot, Testudo. So I thought I would show that and make it really personal. That's one of the reasons I take lots of pictures. So there's me. And that's what I used as a slide when I did the presentation with them. And then I added this phrase, edit ruthlessly. I want you to keep that in mind, really edit ruthlessly. So what I want to walk you through is how I work with them on one messaging piece and how I want you guys to think about looking at how to improve yours from both a messaging and a story point of view. So I really think that messaging is fairly complex. It involves so many different things. Culture, regionality, age, language, emotional content. Right? I could have been really stressed, but for the last hour before I got here, was driving going, look, I'm going to show up when I show up. I might be a couple minutes late, but it's okay. I can cut the program by 5 minutes. It won't be a big deal. But I could have been a wreck. Came in all disheveled. Oh, shoot, really had that? But you guys are counting on me. So that's the kind of feeling that you want to communicate and think about is all the things that your prospective alumni that you want to do things, how are they feeling, right? Remember, I don't know, those of you if you're working, remember COVID? So I did all my teaching over Zoom. And I was super easy with the students. I just wanted them to improve. And some of them really didn't take it very well, right? It didn't really bother me very much because I work from home all the time. I have my family unit, so it's a little bit different for me as opposed to a young person, but that requires a different mindset. So these are different things you want to think about. The first two is about the Better Tomorrow message. So you may have one, is it working? And are you checking? In sales we call it a lift. Is there a standard phrase that you guys have when you have a result that's good? Is there a standard phrase you guys use? In sales we call it a lift. So if you spend $10 on this and you get $12, you get a $2 lift. So whatever it is, the improvement. Are you measuring how your materials are working? The Better Tomorrow message. Right? Think about catalogs. Do you remember catalogs? On the back, if you've ever ordered from a catalog, when I was younger, they used to have a 20-digit code on the back. First thing the operator would say is, please read me the code. And what they would do literally is they'd have different cover pages, inside pages, back pages. They'd have different messages, and they're trying to figure out what's going to sell the most. So you might want to refresh your campaign. Maybe you want to change the picture, you want to change the language, whatever it is, figure that out. Same thing with call to action. How's your copy and your story? Is it confusing? And we're going to talk about that in a moment. Is your visual clear? Is it compelling? I call this a metaphor picture. Is it communicating and complementing? And then the last one is the flow. Look at the whole piece and go, I'm proud. Don't forget, you're going to get a copy. If you want to take a picture of me, you just nodded your head vigorously. Both sides are good. So this is what they sent me. So this is the text, only the text. I'm going to show you how it looks as an ad. So this is what they call the summer membership. They gave me the audience, right? So this is the language. See, it's really short. This is a PDF that gets sent out, an email campaign, I think. Okay, so I'm going to let you read it. And while you're reading it, I want you to be critical. This is a learning opportunity, okay? I want you to be critical. I want you to think about what you like, what can be improved upon, what you don't like. Because I want you to use that same thinking in a few minutes when you start working on your own materials, and certainly when you go back to your office. Shout it out. Anything strike anybody to either compliment or say, maybe here's a suggestion? Yes, please, nice and loud. No, I didn't write this first one. Mine's way better. It's coming. I'm sorry.
A lot of sensory words.
A lot of sensory words. Remember the 9 that helps improve retention? Those are your 5 senses. Absolutely. What maybe you don't like?
I don't like how the last 2 sentences end with the exact same phrase.
I'm sorry.
I don't like how the last 2 sentences end with the exact same phrase for the next generation of Turks.
Okay. So you're not a fan of this particular repetition, or?
I don't like repetition in copy in general.
So she doesn't like repetition. I may jump up and down as high as I possibly can, use repetition all the time. All the time. And I'm going to show you. Okay. So it's your style. It has to work. But here's the thing. No repetition, lots of repetition. What works? That's really what matters. Is what's your audience doing with the material. Right? You gotta always remember it's not about us, it's about them. Alright. So while you're doing this, look at the language, what I call the cadence or the beats. When you read copy, never read it in your head. It sounds perfect. I don't know, I want to meet someone. I should really go on campus and find someone, I don't know, language language or speech pathology department. You have to read it out loud. So what I want you to do is read from the word and to colors out loud. Okay? Go. Do you notice something about those 4 examples? Nice and loud, please. Whoever's talking. That's okay. It's up to you how you write. To me, I throw grammar and EB strung out the window. It's about being effective. If you're a grammar person, then go for it. But think of the cadence.
The last phrase is too long.
Too long.
And you lose momentum of
That's right. When we read, we love that cadence. We love the parallel structure. So when you're giving examples, try very hard to make them the same amount of syllables, words, whatever you want to do, so the cadence is similar. That's one example. Next, resonance. Who here says, hey, what are your core memories? They don't say that. Right? Hey, what are your favorite memories? What do you remember? So use language that your audience is going to want to read and feel. Words. Now, my repetition friend. I don't believe you should have University of Maryland or Maryland or University of Maryland. It's implied. Now, if you look at the last one where it says you help keep Maryland traditions alive, if you pull the word Maryland out, it doesn't sound right. So you want to read everything out loud over and over, and then let it sit and come back to it. Don't ever sit in one sitting and go, I love it. Your brain actually works over and keeps working when you keep things and you keep working on it. Okay? Now, here's the final copy. Oh, sorry, it's not the final copy. These are almost final copy. You'll see where it says better list. I was asking for advice. So what I did then was I asked the team, I said, what is the structure that I have to write within? And it's really important. So they have these really nice templates that they've designed. And the text has to stay within that template. So if you have that structure, then you need to know you have a maximum number of words that has to fit. So that was really important. So no matter how great the words are, they have to fit the structure. Okay? So we have, now, notice the phrasing, I am tradition. Do you notice that? You have to read that in 2 beats. I am tradition. We are tradition. If you had it across horizontally, it flows. It doesn't stand out. So the word tradition doesn't smack you in the forehead, because that's the key message for this particular piece. So you want to think about pressing a return or an enter on your keyboard and maybe lining some words up, or starting the paragraphs with the same word. And then you have this really nifty, nice, advanced forms of repetition. And I'll show you some examples in a moment. So I gave them 4 examples. Just the word tradition, and then you are tradition. And they picked the one all the way to the right. That's what they liked for this particular piece. Okay? Now, this will be a new document, your PDF. So let's talk. We already kind of gave you some of your suggestions. So what I want you to do now is look at the language and how I wrote it. Okay? So if you're not a big fan of repetition, just close your ears and your eyes and pretend this is not painful for you. But to me, there's a reason why there are so many figures of speech that are for repetition. There's so many, and you don't even realize it. And I will show you. So you have you or your, it's the same word. You have tradition, which starts and essentially ends. Dues, do you see the word dues? That's called an ending closing when you end with the word and start with the next sentence. Dues and dues. Alumni association is repeated, and then you have traditions come together, which is alliteration. So I designed this to repeat the message of traditions over and over within the amount of copy that's here. So I call this languaging. Let me just share with you what I call the definition of language. So this is a very purposeful approach to language, both in public speaking and design, but more importantly for design for you guys. It's that carriage return, it's we are next line tradition. It's using the repetition on purpose. So that's what you want to think about. So these are three of the most popular ones that people use throughout. The other big one is epizeuxis. When you say really, 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 that's when you use the same word repeated without any conjunctions, and or. That's also one of the big ones. So anaphora is repeating the same word in the beginning. Diacope is repeating your key messages. To me, every single message you have, I'm sure there's some exceptions, has to have your key message at least twice for a piece that's that length. If you're doing presentations, 30 minutes, 3 to 4, you're doing an hour, 7 to 10. You've got to repeat. And then Andy Plosy is the one I mentioned, that's the do. So now let's look at it where it pops. Now you see the repetition. And here's another one for you. Do you see where it says help us, that's after becoming a member today, help us create new opportunities and new traditions? Most people will delete the second new, and they'll leave it to help us create new opportunities and traditions. Read that out loud. You can sort of whisper if you want. Read it out loud with and without the second new, and see and feel the difference. Do it now. To me, there's a huge difference because you're telling people new opportunities, new traditions. You're not making them struggle and go, is it new that applies? Because most people will just drop the second new mentally. They won't read it. It's not there. It's invisible, literally. So I want to challenge you to use words purposely, deliberately, especially repetition. Let me show you in real life where all this comes to play. So on my website, I've got about 15 of them. I teach all my students about 25. They never have to remember what the Greek word is. I never would say to them, okay, what's an aphra? Go. But I'll have them look at their content and their speech, and I'll say, where can you use repetition to improve? And they'll go, oh, I can use it here and here. And I go, oh, that's an aphra. And the way that I get it in their heads is we play Family Feud for an extra credit point. We do that 2 days, and they have a blast doing that. So I have a bunch of them that are on my website, about 15, and I'm always adding more. And let me show you just how powerful these various, what I call written enhancements, which most of these are figures of speech. Ever shop at Chick-fil-A? Or any fast food? This is my picture from Chick-fil-A. 3 words. How many figures of speech do you think are here? 7. It's all over, ladies and gentlemen. Repetition is all over. You don't even know it's there. After today, you're going to start paying attention very differently to packaging and messaging, more than you've ever done. So the one that you make, so asymptoton is when you make it very abrupt. Sip, sip, joy. I am tradition. You are tradition. Alliteration, you know. Auxesis is when you have words that climax to a final. So you have sip, sip, joy will be your final big moment. Now, hot day like yesterday and today, I would say that's not hyperbole. It really is joy to drink a really cold soda. All right, keeping in mind fast food. How many written enhancements do you think are with this ad? Who said 12? Darn close. Such a small amount of words. How many complexities are in there? See that? What are you doing in your messaging to amp up what you say and what you write so you're having a higher, bigger impact on your audiences? I love LinkedIn. I find all sorts of stories and examples. This is a nurse. So this is an example of an aphra. And then you might say to me, well, the and today is not the same set of words. Conceptually, it is. It fits perfectly. because it goes from months to today, right? So that's where you have your author's creativity to be able to do what you want. Just lined up really powerfully. I want to show you an example. The good folks at Alumni Relations, because of those workshops that I did, the relationships that I made, I've written 2 different keynote speeches for commencement for the Board of Governors president. I want to share with you Jeff's from last year. Listen to his pausing, listen for his repetition, and the key phrases that he has for his call to action and better tomorrow message.
So good evening, fellow Terps. When you hear the word family, what do you immediately think? I think about brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, grandparents, and of course, mom and dad. I think about memories shared experiences, and belonging. Now, when you hear the word community, what do you immediately think? I think about great friends, memories, shared experiences, and again, belonging. Strong communities are like strong families. Whether coming home for Thanksgiving, coming back to campus, you feel something deep down in your gut. A warm feeling, a special feeling, a feeling of belonging, and a feeling of something bigger. That is what your Alumni Association is. It is something bigger. And have you thought about this? Today your title changes from student to alum. And your education, according to Nelson Mandela, is the single most powerful weapon you have to change the world. In our Terp community are people from all walks of life. Some have earned special distinctions, such as Jeanette Epps, one of the first black female astronauts, Kevin Plank, growing Under Armour into a multi-billion-dollar powerhouse, Jody Olson, director of the Peace Corps, Jonathan Fix, founder of Terps Against Hunger, Jeff Kinney, author and cartoonist, who has entertained an entire generation, and it's you. So just like these Terps, you will also make a difference in your community, at your job, for yourself, and certainly for your families. Please remember that Terps help Terps. I know my success was partly built on the shoulders of alumni who helped me along the way. In fact, my very first thought for just about everything is, there's a Terp for that. So you now have access to one of the greatest alumni communities in the world, a community of more than 400,000 Terps in all 50 states and in 156 countries. After you get settled in your next phase of life, I urge you to join your Alumni Association. Join a community of willing Terps to help you find your dream job, introduce you to a business partner, tailgate at a sports event, or perhaps just hire that Terp to design landscape your yard. Just remember, for everything, there's a Terp for that, and you are now a Terp alum. So when you wake up tomorrow, I have 2 key questions for you. First, where do you want to have impact? And second, what is your next step? Remember, wherever you are in life, you are always a Terp. Share your Maryland pride and make a difference in the world. On behalf of the University of Maryland Alumni Associations, congratulations to the class of 2022 and 2023. Well done. Terps help Terps. You are always a Terp. Thank you. Go Terps.
So Jeff gave me a couple of anchor phrases, and Terp helps Terps. There's a Terp.
Welcome back, Dr. Daryl J. Vines.
I cut that part off. He loved, there's Terp for that, Terps on Terps. He started doing that, and I forgot about that in there. But he gave me a couple of anchor phrases, and then I worked with him and wrote the rest. Right? So the core better tomorrow message, Terps help Terps. Call to action is always going to be join the Alumni Association. That's what his role is there. All right, so I want you now to take your booklet, your workbook. You decide, there's pages for all of these here. You decide what you want to work on. You're going to get about 15 minutes. I'll walk around. If you have a question, raise your hand and you want to brainstorm with me. If you have colleagues sitting next to you, my suggestion is do not collaborate with them. Leave that for later. Be creative on your own. I'm not saying you can't. Do what you want. But I think you'll have more result if you have two brains working separately, some of your own thinking,